Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emerald the Quilter. Thanks for joining me today. I have a few exciting things to share with you. The first thing we're going to look at is my Animal Crackers quilt top. It's right here, all pin basted, ready for quilting, which we will do today. The other thing I'm going to show you is the binding that goes along with it. My icebox cookie quilt that is done and bound, and if you stay to the end, I'm going to show you my plans for the gingerbread house quilt. Now, if you've been watching from the beginning, you know that I've already made that one. So I'm going to show you how to take scraps and make those blocks. So watch to the end and remember to like and subscribe. Okay, here is my icebox cookie quilt. It is completely quilted and bound, all done 100%. I'm so proud of it. It came out really beautiful, very sunny. Of course, it has sunflowers on it. And I love the solid yellow backing that I picked and this Moda brown that I used for the binding. The brown solid really brought out some of the outlining on the motifs of this pattern collection, and so I'm just very proud of it. And this is the second quilt that I've finished from the Perfect 5 Quilts book. Well, technically the third, but for the sake of my YouTube videos, it's the second one. And if you haven't purchased your Perfect 5 Quilts book and you would like to make these quilts, it's not too late. My YouTube videos are going to be there and you can join and sew along with me. So quilt 2, done. Now let's take a look at my Animal Crackers quilt, and I'm going to show you how I use a walking foot to quilt that one. Okay, I have my quilt already set up. It's rolled or partially folded here on my right side. The stitch that I'm going to use on the Allegro is a decorative stitch, and it's number 36. I'm not changing the settings. It's going to stay at 1.5. And this is the walking foot that I have. So this is the deluxe walking foot with 3 soles by Baby Lock. And the sole I'm using today is this one here in the middle. This is the open-toed sole, and it's great because you can see where your needle is going just a little bit better and your stitches. So that's what I have set up. And I did do a few test stitches with it, and this is what it looks like. So it's not a wave stitch, it's like little bumpy hills. Kind of reminds me of a pantograph, but without all the extra lines. And then of course I did a few more before I started. And so my tip for you before you even begin stitching is to relieve as much of the weight of your quilt from the sewing machine as possible. What will happen is if you leave the quilt down and mostly weighing on the machine, your little hills will come out shorter. However, if you sort of keep the weight of your quilt on top of you, you'll get a wider stitch with every little hill. So let's zoom in and get started. Okay, so I've done a little bit, and I'm bringing it around. You can see how they are coming out nicely. I'm using this seam here as a guide to go straight, and I'm doing the best that I can to lift the quilt off of the sewing machine so that I can have even hills. Okay, I'm coming close to the other end of this quilt, and I'm still using the inner edge of the left sole to guide my needle and go straight. My thread did break once, but I think it was because I was pushing. So note to self, no more pushing the quilt. Now, the deluxe walking foot comes with 2 accessories. They're metal guides, a left and a right, that you can use by screwing into the back of your walking foot and then using it as a guide to keep equal distance between your stitches. Now, because I don't need a whole lot of distance, I'm just going to use the sole to keep my stitches even. So let's take a look at how it's come out so far. Okay, there are the stitches. There you can see it nicely. They're pretty delicate, cute, and I'm just going to take this and go all the way across the quilt. Here is where my thread broke. Luckily, it was broken at the very last stitch of this entire stitch, and so I was able to reset the stitch number 36 to begin where I had ended. So I will get rid of this thread later. Okay, I folded the quilt up again, and I have my sole about 1/4 of an inch away from the top of this stitch. And to begin where you started, now it's not going to be exact like 100% across the entire quilt, but I'm going to simply go down to stitch 35 and then stitch 36, and then you can see my needle moved and it reset. So even though my little hills are not going to match all the way across and back down this way on the quilt, they will always start in their original position. And I'm being extra careful this time not to push the quilt. It's a bad habit when I have a lot of weight, and because I'm trying to keep the weight off of the machine, I just, without even thinking, am pushing, but you should not do that with any kind of foot ever. And readjusting. Want to make sure I don't get any pleats down there. And because this quilt is pretty small, it was small enough that I could take the backing and use one entire piece of yardage without having to make any seams. So it's less than when a yard is opened up. It's somewhere between 42 and 44 inches. I did not have to add any more fabric to that. So I don't have a whole lot of pins, and my batting that I use on one side, it has a fusible to it, so I iron that real good, and along with the rubber on this walking foot, it's sewing evenly. I cut it, and then I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to start again about 1/4 of an inch away from the top of the stitch, go back down to 35, back up again to 36, so I'm in the original needle position, and do it all over again. Now I am going to check the back. You should check the back way more frequently than I have, so let's see. There it is. There are my stitches. They're nice and even. I don't have any tension problems at all, which is nice. So if you are needing a break from free motion quilting, get a walking foot. And I'm just going to increase the speed a little bit because there isn't really too much of a reason to go slow. And it was nice to see that it worked as advertised. It did not pull any fabric. this pin. Don't want to run that over. And I am wearing my gloves because it helps me get a grip on the quilt. No matter how small my quilt is, I always wear them. Okay. And I'm going to go back again. Quarter inch away, go back down to 35, up to 36 again. Now, you probably noticed that I started in the middle of my quilt. So, what's nice about the Allegro is when it's time for me to flip this around and work in the other direction, there's a feature called mirror where I can take these little hills, which are now going upwards and back down again to my right. When I use the mirror feature, it will change them in the opposite direction. So when I flip this quilt around, my stitch will also be flipped, and then it will look like the stitch is going in the same direction. Now I increased my speed, but it looks like that's as fast as it's going to go with the walking foot. I guess that's okay. So I have 4 rows of stitches. Let's see how those came out. There they are. They're looking really nice. Now you can see like from here to here, it kind of goes a little bit left diagonally, and then this next one, the point is right diagonally, but they're close enough. And once I have the entire quilt quilted, it won't be like a distraction. It'll just flow and look good. So I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to try to get one entire row of blocks quilted so that I can show you how it's coming out. Hold on, I did not start entirely at the beginning. I don't want to do that. Okay, just pulled that out. Okay, go back down. Restart. And there. Just want to start my first stitch right at the start of the fabric. Okay. And I'm constantly adjusting the quilt because I don't want pleats. I don't want to break my thread again, and I just want to go as straight as possible, even though I'm not using a guide. It's working so far. Wonder how many I have left to go. Maybe about between 3 and 4. This is going pretty quickly. Okay, I reset again. Now there are a few little hills that are closer together, and that's just because I didn't relieve the weight of the quilt from the sewing machine, and I also didn't stop stitching to do so. They're not too noticeable. Oh, I had to slow down there because I saw the seams that I had popped puckering up. Even though this is easier than free motion quilting, it's not a set it and forget it. You still gotta pay attention to what you're doing and where you're going. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll see how it's turning out on the table. And it looks like I'm gonna get to use this seam the entire way as a guide. So that'll be nice. In between every row, I get kind of an opportunity to reset the directions my stitches are going. Now it's not going to be like super perfect, I can already tell, because textiles, they're made of fibers and they move around. Okay, we've got one row of blocks quilted. So let's take a look at how it went on the table. Here is the quilting. And I went across the shorter length of the quilt. Zoom in. There it is. Looks really pretty. And let's look at the back. You can see that there are no puckers. That is very exciting. It's completely flush all the way across. And zoom out so we can see. There we go. I love it. I highly recommend using a walking foot, especially for smaller projects like this one. Now I don't know how long this is going to take me to finish, but I could probably finish quilting the rest of this in one night. So not tonight because it's already getting kind of late, but maybe tomorrow night I might be able to finish quilting. And I wanted to take a moment to show you the whole quilt. There it is. And here's the back. I love the alphabet backing. And then my binding is this here. And you can see how closely it matches to the greens in this collection by Corey Yoder. Again, it's called Apricot and Ash. There, can you see a little bit better the green? Almost a perfect match, so that's exciting. Now, the next time that we see each other, I will try to have the binding at least attached to this quilt, and definitely we're going to start working on the gingerbread house quilt. Okay, I put that quilt away and I brought out the Gingerbread house quilt I promised to show you. This is the quilt I made for my son. I don't think I followed the yardage exactly for the width of the borders. This may be a little bit bigger. I'd have to go back and check, but everything else is to the pattern. This is the quilt that we're gonna make next. Here's the back, and here's what the pattern looks like. Fairly simple. It's very repetitive. You can get it done quickly. And I looked at all of my leftover charm pack squares that I had, and these were the only 3 that I could find. So 1, 2, and this is the white on white. It has little candy canes on it. I don't think I'll be able to use these, but I do have some scraps. This is left over from the border. This piece here. Now, in addition to having 1 charm pack, I had also had a few fat quarters of the collection because I really liked it. And so those charm squares are all gone, but luckily I have these pieces and they're scraps because, except for now these are not scraps. These are new, I didn't use them. The ones I had just showed you are scraps because I used them to make a, what did I make out of them? A stocking, a Christmas stocking for my son. Okay, so we are going to make, oh, and then of course I had some extra background. We're going to make the gingerbread quilt, and you're going to need the Perfect 5 Quilts book to make this with me. I'm not going to make an entire quilt again. I'm going to make my son a matching pillow. So if you would like to join me in making the pillow or a whole quilt, so long. It's going to be fun, and thank you so much again for being here with me today. I hope you are enjoying my videos, getting some tips, and if you like my videos, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.